Hello, everyone, and welcome to State of the Realm. Last week, we did our patch 6.3 first impressions. Only spoiled a couple of boss names. We didn't really talk about the story at all, so that's what we're going to do this week. Welcome to patch 6.3 Spoilercast, your last respite before the Omega Protocol on Tuesday. To do that, we're going to need some hosts. I'm one of them, Mr. Happy. Of course, joining me is Sly. How you doing, Sly? You doing all right?
I'm doing all right. Doing all right.
You doing all right? Yeah.
Yeah,
you doing all right. You look good. You look good. You look good.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. Oh, yeah. And we also need somebody who probably pays a lot more attention to the story than we do, as much as we like to believe that we remember it. So, returning for the second time, we have Pyromancer. How you doing, Pyro?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm
You
doing
doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. You doing all right?
I'm doing all right, dude. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. I'm super stoked about today, man. I'm really excited.
Are you? Because when I DM'd you, you said, wait, story in my weeb game?
In my weeb game? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite part of the story, like, period. So yeah, they kind of laid it on us in this raid, so there's a lot to talk about.
There sure is, and oh boy, will we get to all of that. But first, quick shout out to the sponsors. Thank you for everyone over on Patreon for supporting. You don't have to. We don't do anything special for them other than exist, which, you know, depending on your point of view, may or may not be special. So, you know, we try. That's it. That's it. That's all we can do. And
Yay
also,
for being alive.
Hooray!
Hooray!
Woo!
Now just to survive in a bag, a plastic bag. We'll continue that conversation later.
For 10 minutes.
For 10 minutes. That's it.
10
That's
minutes.
It. That's a pre-show conversation. That's leaking into the show. And also shout out to the rest of our sponsors. Steel Series, Advanced GG, have HelloFresh back again, which I'm hungry for. So we should get through this quick because I got some food. I got some food to cook. That would be good. All right. But no, it'll take as long as we need to because we have story. Now, we don't have everything because obviously we don't have Hildebrand yet. We don't have the Manderville weapon yet. We don't have the Loporits yet, which I think I'll actually lead in by saying Pyro. Topic the last couple of weeks has been the staggered content. Now, you don't have as many years of staggered content for 14 releases to really judge upon, but how did you feel about the choice, especially this expansion thus far, to have things like the Beast Tribe pushed back till the point X5 patches, whereas normally in previous ones we would have had that in like the point XO patch?
I like it. I think for me it's been paced pretty well. I sure as shit get content more often than in World of Warcraft. So for me, like that's an improvement. And yeah, I feel like doing MSQ and like Wings of the Raid and then having something more like the tribes to fill your time, like in the downtime, I think I enjoy that. Yeah, I like the Omicron, and I've been keeping up with it. So, yeah,
the Omicron is pretty good. Yeah,
yeah, the Omicron, oh, man, that's the best tribe quest in the game.
I would agree. I would agree. It almost didn't even feel like it was about Omicrons until closer to the end.
I know,
because they're just kind of the hosts of it until you get really, really like to the very last quest. But
yeah, and honestly, like the implications with Dynamis there are pretty huge. So that made me very excited to do it.
Good. Well, with that out of the way, just a quick opinion piece on that. Much more concise than myself, I'll say, when it comes to that topic. No
Fair
surprise. Enough. But don't worry, now you can be much less concise because now we get to talk about the story.
Good. Awesome. All right.
All right. So patch 6.3, very different from our usual .x3 patches where we are normally wrapping up the actual expansion end for all of them except for Realm Reborn. This one, we're not really sure if it's our filler arc, if it's our lead into the expansion arc. We're not really 100% sure there, but we just have a continuation of the events that were set in motion in the last couple of patches. So Sly and I gave our general thoughts before we got into the specifics. So why don't you give us your general thoughts on 6.3? Because I think it's been a little divisive of a story quality patch.
Yeah, we're talking about the MSQ in this specifically.
You can go any which direction, but yeah, the MSQ would be worth the start. Yeah,
I think MSQ. So as someone who more recently played Final Fantasy IV, MSQ has been pretty awesome for me, and I have pretty fresh in my mind like how the Fiends were in Final Fantasy IV and how Golbez was in Final Fantasy IV. I'm very familiar with the end of that game with Zemus and Zeromus, and have takes on all of that. So just to first off, as we've seen, remind people as you know, Square has said, it's not one-to-one, you know, the characters aren't meant to be exactly the same. In some ways they are, in some ways they're not. So I enjoyed their take on the Fiends. I was not surprised at all to end up seeing Scarmiglione in the dungeon, and then Rubicante as the trial. I think story-wise, they used the first two Fiends, the first Fiend in each set, to kind of like bring back the main story arc, and then I feel like they tell more of a narrative, and they show more stuff when the second Fiend is introduced. So Scarmi and then Barbaricia, this happened, and then Cagnazzo and then Rubicante, this happened. And with Rubicante at the end, I really loved what they did with him, because what they've been trying to do with these Void Sent the whole time is like make us feel for them. There's obviously a sense of empathy that's trying to be developed here, because we have to remember that these were once people. Zero being a really good example of like the more humanesque like example of like how awkward and how different their lives have been as a result of the Void, right? So I think, you know, having Rubicante there as one of the Archfiends that even in his service to Golbez didn't lose himself. He never lost who he was at his core. He always was honorable. He always had virtue within him, right? He always had, I think, a good heart. And I think that shows in his backstory quest. If you haven't done that, you really need to go do it, because you're missing a shitload of context. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, it's a gold quest at the bottom of the stairs in the Mega Duda when you finish MSQ. There's two of them. There's one for Scarmi and Barbaricia, and there's one for Cagnazzo and Rubicante, and they're very important. And honestly, they should have been in the MSQ, in my opinion. So MSQ-wise, Fiend-wise, I love what they're doing with the Fiends. I really felt for Rubicante, and when we defeated him, I didn't feel, you know, I almost felt a sense of like relief for being able to set him free. And that was interesting for me, because the other Void Sent are shown as so savage and crazed that it's hard to connect with them in that way. So I love that. I can continue if you want me to, unless you want to give some thoughts.
I'm sure with Final Fantasy IV fresh on your mind, you were waiting to see if he'd heal you to full or something like that. But they went with a different direction in interpreting him, because he is, of course, in Final Fantasy IV also the most honorable of the Fiends, right. Even if he does some horrible things all the same.
Yes. Yeah. And that's kind of where this goes to, I think, is like the Golbez plot, and they put a focus on this, and they're using Zero as a vessel for storytelling, but also to like get a point across, which is, and Zero's come to realize this, she acknowledges in her dialogue, is that what Golbez is doing probably, maybe in a sense, is the right thing. You know, he has a virtuous idea. He wants to set these people free from their suffering, including himself. This infinite purgatory of death, or of undeath, that they can never get out of, right? Sounds like a pretty good thing to do, but as Zero's realizing, it's the cost. At what cost are you achieving this? So it's a pretty standard arc with in that regard. Into the topic of Zero, Zeromus, Golbez. Okay, there's some different things that have happened here in this Void storyline. So we know now, and we knew before, that Golbez had gone to the moon. We knew from previous flashback cutscenes that he had slain the Watcher, which we now know more about. We now see that he and his structure, where he had the Fiends, was centralized in the hole where Zodiark would have been. And we have this theme going on in the expansion where absorbing things and absorbing other Void Sent can have a detrimental effect on your ability to process emotions how you normally would, because now other things are conflicting with who you are, right? There can sometimes begin to be other wills at play, right? We saw this illustrated in the lead up to Barbaricia in the first part of the Void quest line, where there's a Void scent that eats another one, and the fear of Barbaricia from that Void scent is now inherent in this Void scent. So, in Final Fantasy IV, Golbez, this is spoilers if you didn't know, Golbez, who would
It's
spoilers for the
Spoilercast,
skin
go
that's
nuts.
how many years old? He's corrupted by Zemus, who is a slumbering Lunarian that Fusoya is tasked with watching over. If you guys didn't know, Fusoya looks exactly, robe and everything, like the Watcher on our moon. So it's very clearly, inspired from that. The Crystal Palace on the moon is the same as it was in 4. Basically, what ends up happening is Golbez ends up being woken up to the fact that he's being corrupted and controlled by Zemus. So Zemus is drawn out of Golbez, and Zemus is struck down, but from within Zemus, the pure manifestation of malice and hatred forms and is known as Zeromus. So there's a theory, that Zero might be Zeromus, who's the evil, this and that, right? Makes sense to an extent. Except this has already happened. This has already happened in the reverse. Because Zero, as Zeromus, was already corrupted by Zemus as Xenos. It's already happened, but in reverse, right? And this is why I say they don't take things and they don't make it one-to-one. They'll flip stuff around, they'll make it different, right? So my take on, is Zero going to be a bad guy? I don't think so. I think as a half warrior of light, half void scent, she's very special. We see her coming around. She's becoming more human. She's realizing the virtue that we have within us, why we fight. Why, not that it's not always a deal. It's not always a transaction. I don't always do it because I have something to gain. I do it because it's the right thing to do. Because those people over there can't defend themselves, and so I'm going to go and do it. And Zero's starting to realize that. That's why she's now willing to help us and oppose Golbez, who I think is her father, personally. Even though we don't exactly, even though she's not gaining anything from it necessarily. So, as far as what's going to happen with Golbez, if we want to go with a corruption plot, if he ate the heart of Zodiark, then he's fucked. That guy is corrupted as fuck probably right now. And considering that Zodiark was a god manifested as a instrument of salvation, Golbez being driven by this innate deep sense of seeking salvation for his people and for his world, seeking release, there could be some kind of connection there. But overall, to keep it kind of based around the main characters and the main big plot, that's kind of like my general idea at this point. Zero's definitely going to remain on our side, in my opinion. And I think Golbez, there is something wrong with him at this point, like as far as corruption or something like that. I think that's still very likely. And I think that there's a good chance that he ends up being awakened to, whoever he maybe really is, right? I mean, this patch is called, the previous patch is called Buried Memory. This one being God's Rebel Lands Tremble. But for obvious reasons, the patch names, I think, hint at some things. So,
yeah. I do wonder if we'll find out Golbez's real name is his name from Final Fantasy IV, or if they'll give him Cecil's name as a kind of send-off. I've heard some people think Zero's real name is Cecilia.
I've heard that as well.
Yeah.
I've heard that also.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple times. There's also apparently Cecil and Rosa have a child in the after
Sayador.
years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one that's come up too.
Don't play after years. Don't fucking play.
No,
please.
is it not so good? I know that someone comes back, and I don't like that. I don't like those arcs. I don't like returning. I don't like returning villains.
I just had to play it recently
For some things.
Don't play. It's not only that; it's also so much longer of a game.
Really?
Because it's basically it was released on the Wii as an episodic release. Like every 2 weeks, they'd release an episode that you'd have to buy. So every chapter is like 3 hours long minimum, and there's 9 chapters that are about that long, and then the 10th chapter is about as long as the first 9 chapters together. So it's if you want to do everything, it's a very long game.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah, and it's cool seeing some of the characters years later, but It's also not.
I can appreciate that.
I describe After Years as, did you like Final Fantasy IV? Yes. Would you like to play it again? Yes. There you go.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's some good stuff from 4. I mean, like the Shadow Dragon thing is another thing that comes up, you know, with Azhdaya potentially, you know, becoming Golbez's Shadow Dragon. She could end up being the next trial, and then I don't know. I would like for Golbez to be the last trial, personally.
I don't think it will be. I think Zeromus,
Really?
they're going to throw.
You think Zeromus will do it?
I think we're wrapping this whole thing up before 6.5, and whatever happens because of this pushes us into the. I think this is a filler arc that detonates the 7.0 expansion. I think that's what they're going to do.
Very possible. That's very possible. And I mean, yeah.
I think they kill it off in 6.4. And then 6.5 is like the in-between kind of filler arc to the whatever blow up happens in the next expansion. So I think, honestly, I hate to say it, I think we deal with either Azhdaya or well, we will deal with Zeromus in a trial. But I think we will deal with Azhdaya in the dungeon, which is kind of sad. Like,
Yeah.
Well, I think he rips her other eye out, and then she gets completely corrupted. Is what I think happens.
Yeah,
That's how she becomes Shadow Dragon.
Them going that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she no longer has maybe that like bountiful well of those wells of ether to keep her sustained, she might then succumb to the influence of the void.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah. So if they're gonna go the Shadow Dragon route at all, and at this point it'd be strange if they didn't. It's you know, given all the other references and everything that have been made up to this point.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised.
I mean, and some stuff like I made the comment about, you know, Golbez potentially being Zero's father. The reason why I think just that could be a possibility is because Zero's already told us several things about her mom, and about how her mom was touched by darkness while fighting, you know, in the Contra Memoria, and so was Zero. But her dad never gets brought up. And sometimes that's just circumstantial and it has no meaning. But sometimes certain characters are left out narratively because they actually do have significance. And I think that there is a possibility that given that she can't identify specifically who Golbez is, but she knows the name sounds familiar. And the fact that we just have no idea who Golbez himself is, but we know that Zero happens to be special, that she is Memoriate and Void Sent. And I have just a sneaking suspicion, really, is all it is, that those two are going to end up being related. And I think part of that comes down to the fact that if you want to make it like this, you could see Zero as kind of the Cecil in this situation, especially considering we saw in the flashbacks that she fought with a sword and shield, and then she became a Reaper later on, or a Void Sent later on, essentially. So she kind of did the opposite in a sense of what Cecil did, and Cecil was related to Golbez. So I think the father-daughter thing is actually like pretty possible.
we're getting a Darth Vader treatment, aren't we?
I honestly, that's what I think might happen. I think we might, because I think that they've got to find a way. If Golbez if he's going to have like a deep significance as like a character for us, I think he's either, like a lot of people have said, they either think Golbez is our shard, if our shard exists on the 13th. The two ones I hear the most are Golbez or Zero. Well, at this point, it seems like Golbez or Zero is becoming too much of her own character. She, like, not that Ardbert didn't, right? But I think Zero is special in her own way, and it's actually almost more likely for Golbez to potentially be our shard.
I mean, I see also people think the Reaper avatar is potentially one of them. I've seen that around a bunch.
You mean our
our personal avatar? One? If we've mastered it, yeah, I've seen that one around as well.
I've seen that one around as well.
I've seen that one around as well. Yeah, our personal one, if we've mastered it, yeah, I've seen that one around as well. Yeah, our personal one, if we've mastered it, yeah, I've seen that one around as well. 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 Yeah, I've seen that one around as
Yeah.
But there's nothing to indicate that. I mean, there's nothing to indicate any of this, but you know. Nothing as clear as like Ardbert going, hey, here you go.
Exactly. And well, showing up in our dream. As soon as that happened, I was like, chat, I think we might be soul linked to Ardbert. Like, what the fuck is this? But I think one of the things that leads me down this path of thought is oh goodness, I lost it. That's all right. It'll come back to me if it's important. Shit.
Anyway. About the being our shard.
Oh yes, there it is. So I sort of see personally, and this is just my take, but I guess I see in Final Fantasy 14, like I see our character really as like the main character. Like we're really at the core of the narrative, as Azem. And as we've been regaining parts of ourself, it seems to me like there's a potential for like the end game of Final Fantasy 14 to be like the full reconstruction of the soul of Azem, as like the beacon of hope for, you know, everybody or whatever the fuck, however you want to twist it metaphorically or philosophically. So it just makes me think like from this, somehow from the 13th, hopefully we will get a shard of ourselves. And some people have also said like, oh, could it be Unukalai? But then there's the relationship between Unukalai and Tainor that makes them seem like, holy fuck, those probably are, those two are maybe going to be shards of each other. So I guess I would just like to see it because in my head, my fan fiction, I guess, is that Azem eventually comes back all the way. And not reborn as in we become another person, because we are our own person. But as we take on shards of ourselves, that we become that full ancient soul once more. The only one that there is.
And then we can be the final boss.
Yes, then we become despair. So anyway, but that's very much like a headcanon fanfic type idea. So that's part of why I want to see a shard of us come from the 13th, if it's possible.
Sly's like, I hear these things too often.
way too fucking often. Like that.
Hey, I mean,
like the headcanon I hear, the headcanon I read, like just going on Reddit and everything is just
it's too much.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a fucking lot.
Yeah, sometimes it gets deep, like character deep, and I don't really go there. Like I don't have arcs in my mind for what character is gonna do this or that. I don't think of it like that.
These bitches have written out the next 4 expansions. Like it gets deep. It gets fucking deep. Like, and I don't even like. First of all, I don't even know how the fuck I get to Reddit. I think like half the time it's just looking up stuff for the fucking show, and then like I just see this random fucking Reddit post, and I'm like, fuck, I ain't got shit to do. Let me read this. And they go through like 12 fucking character arcs and 4 expansions, and I'm like, how do y'all motherfuckers have so much time to do this?
I wonder that about a lot of the things people do, but you know, this is one of them.
Like, I just kind of want to pass it on to like Koji and Ishikawa and see what the fuck they think.
Just to see the reaction, like,
yeah, like
as they read the paper, like,
that would hurt. That would break so many souls for somebody to see that. If they, it's like imagine, you know, those like Wired YouTube videos where it's like, you know, like a professional reacting to like a movie, except it's like it's Ishikawa reacting to fan theories.
Oh no!
I'm just like I give that a 2 out of 10 for shit I would write. Oh man. But yeah, this patch has actually been quite divisive. I mean, you went into a lot of the details about things that you personally enjoy, but I've heard people a little less satisfied with either Zero's growth as an individual or the way the Archfiends are being used in particular.
Yeah, I don't get that, dude. I don't get the Zero growth thing.
Like, she's grown so much as a person. When we first met her, she was Babby.
I
mean, even in this patch, she was Babby. Like, I prayed for this chick. Like, I swear to God, if we weren't there, like, she, like, think about it. Think about it. She's literally a void sent, and her major character point is, you know, equivalent exchange, so to speak. Like, think about it. If we left this bitch alone and she came to fucking Hydaelyn and we taught her about love, she would be exchanging shit for love. She would be a hooker. She is literally,
just some ether, please.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she's grown so much. I don't see how you could say that she hasn't grown as a person.
I have to hear what the critique is.
Wean her out of that.
What is the critique?
So, one is just a general disinterest in her sort of one-noted outlook, which obviously has improved as of this patch. I'm just gonna read, because obviously I've gone through all my own comment sections already, which is, despite being a YouTuber, a huge mistake.
Yeah, I applaud you for your willpower to do that. That's quite something.
Yeah. So, we'll have comments about her just not enjoying her as a character, thus the large focus on her being dissatisfying as a sense. And for the Fiends, them kind of all being gone in 2 patches is 2 of the major things that I've picked up on from individuals. Okay. So thus that's 2.5 hours of our 3-hour MSQ.
We got rid of the weapons quicker than that.
No,
yeah,
we didn't.
So
the weapons lasted long, but they were also a trial series, so it's a different story.
Right.
Like they were a side thing, trial series, yeah.
Like, so Zero has been around for about 10,000 years, and doesn't have any friends, doesn't have any family, doesn't know what it feels like to have pleasure in anything, eating, laughter, companionship. She has nothing. She has literally nothing. And I think that's hilarious because, and there's going to be people that don't like her just because of this, but she's a mirror to Xenos. He had nothing. Xenos and Zero are very similar in that they were seeking a point.
He had us.
No, well,
he wanted us. He wanted
not
us.
till later, not till later.
Yeah,
but now what's happening with Zero? Now that she's interacting with us, she's finding purpose. It's funny how that works. It's like Azem has an effect on people, it seems. And like the thing with Zero is like, she's not really much of a person. She hasn't been a person in a long fucking time. And she hasn't lived. Exactly. She hasn't lived in a long time. She has survived. And those are 2 very different things. And so it's going to be slow, right? It's going to be like, it's going to be hard. She's starting to come around because the difference between Zero and Xenos is that Zero actually was a warrior of light. Zero, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, let's just say, like, she was kind of born, like, I wouldn't say born with virtue in her heart, but she found virtue in her fight, is kind of what I'm saying. She had a very strong sense of self. She had a reason for what she was doing, and that's been lost to her, right? And so now in her interactions with us, it's being brought back, and it's being brought back slowly but surely. And we're giving her this hope to try to find a reason to live, whatever that means now. Because what has it meant for the last 10,000 years? It's been fuck all. It's meant nothing. It's meant trading here and there just to survive, and trying your best not to dilute your sense of self, lest you just be lost to the void and become a savage void scent like the other ones. It can't amount to much besides that. And that makes you think about Golbez. It's the same fucking shit for that guy. It's really not that different, unfortunately. And with the Fiends, in this case, the Fiends were different than they were in 4 because the Fiends came about as very lowly creatures, lowly void scent that were people before. They had this backstory. Then they were literally transformed into void scent and then empowered by the ether of a dragon to become these Fiends. So as far as the Fiends being gone too early, like, the Fiends were introduced as a plot device for Golbez, and they were also taken out as a plot device for Golbez and for Zero. I'm sorry, but they weren't positioned as the same kind of character as they were in Final Fantasy IV, in my opinion. So while I understand maybe some distaste for how quickly they went, rest assured, I would hope anyway, that it's for something really fucking awesome that's coming. And an arc that's going to hit you in the feels, hopefully. And they're building that with Rubicante. They're building that with how they've depicted the Fiends being released from torment. So I'm hoping that what Golbez, I know what Golbez is doing is fucked up, obviously, but I'm hoping that it ends up being, you know, something where like it how do I put this? It has a deeper emotional impact later, and the fiends don't have to stick around forever for that to happen. Is what I'm saying, I guess.
A couple of things I really like that they've done in regards to Zero's character growth and the fiends on those 2 points that I've seen brought up. One, I love that of all the ways they went with humanizing Zero, they went with probably the most universal way: food.
Food. Yeah.
It is like a one grace that amongst any sort of disdain, as long as they don't do an arc where she eats pineapple on pizza, everyone's gonna love it. Like, as long as they don't go that route, then it'll stay wholesome. Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, she has these scenes with the apple. She has the scenes with the bun. I've seen people complaining about the bun as well.
Yeah, because people have such a good idea of how Square Enix spends their budget. They have such a they know exactly how much time went into each animation and how many man hours were used for it. It's so good that all the players are so aware of that information, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's so annoying.
Someone
dude.
Watched my video. I mean, I know
it's like that's someone's fucking side project, man. Like, sure that's like, it might be cutting edge in some regard, but like, just say that they blew the fucking the budget on a fucking boots is a joke, man. Come on.
I also I can tell Julius is kind of getting the hots for her.
Oh, dude, Ulysses.
Ulysses is all over that.
Soon. I mean, he stopped to give her the time of day, but I love how they're doing that, honestly, because I recognized really quickly this big similarity between them. I mean, having their world be destroyed by literal fucking monstrosities and being left with nothing pretty much and figuring out what they're supposed to do from it. How do you live again after something like this happened?
Yeah.
They're gonna make babies.
They're gonna be quarter void sent.
They're gonna be the first Garlands that can use magic, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Reapers from the other village, kind of. You know, they had to make a deal with the devil, I suppose, but you know, quite literally.
Yeah. The whole arc about that, where they were, dude. For anyone who hasn't done the Reaper job quest, man, there's some fucking dope lore in there for what happened in Garlemald. If you're not aware. And then there's some lore in the dungeon where you get to pick up a little note that talks about a really dated assassination attempt on the king, which is back from a time before the Empire was established. So there's been multiple, regicide attempts in that case to dethrone the king of certain clans back then at the hand of the Reapers. So the Reapers have had a hand. They've had a hand in shit for a long time. For those who don't know, spoiler alert for the Reaper job quest. They tried to assassinate the Emperor. They tried to assassinate Emperor Solasas Galvus, which obviously, you can't really do. So he turned the Void Scent of this man against him. He basically let the Void Scent fully take hold of him, and he turned into a crazed Void Scent himself. So anyway.
And then we cut his head off.
And we cut his fucking head off, yeah. Yep. That did happen.
Other spoiler.
Also, something I did right before 6.3 came out. So like my timeline for having done Final Fantasy IV, like before with Endwalker, like then the Loporrits and everything, and then going into this, just having done the Reaper stuff is like couldn't have been timed better.
Yeah, no, they did a great job. The other thing is, and I'm gonna blow people's minds about this particular aspect about the fiends. They are hardly characters in Final Fantasy IV. I'm gonna blow your mind. They do almost nothing in that game.
They really
except
don't.
They are bosses.
They have like in a grand total between all four of them, they have a total of like 10 lines in like the whole fucking game.
They're 2 Boba Fett's worth of dialogue.
Seriously.
When you can measure dialogue in Boba Fett's as a unit of measure, you haven't done very much.
It's not a lot of dialogue, please. No, I mean, I agree with you. There wasn't like, I struggled a bit because, I looked at some of the comparisons people were making and looking back, trying to remember from 4. I was like, I remember fighting them and like how Rubicante was more complex and thoughtful than the others. But other than that, like, they weren't that interesting. I don't really know what people were expecting, but it's okay to be disappointed. You know, if you like had an expectation or whatever, and like you were just like, I get it, especially if you're a big fan of 4. Many people are. It's one of the most popular in the franchise, alongside of 6, obviously, and 7. But you know, it is what it is, and hopefully, what we are gonna get is the more fleshed out, cooler, meaningful arc through Zero and Golbez. You know, and that's the point, right? And Azhdaya and you know, and Vritra. That's the narrative they want to focus on, because it's not about the 4 fiends. Even Golbez himself says that. Even, you know, they've done what they were supposed to do. Even should my 4 fiends fall, I will not halt my steps. It doesn't matter, even to Golbez. So, yeah.
Sly.
I'm kind of over it. I'm kind of over it now.
Over what?
Like, I'm
the pulling from old stuff.
No, not even that, because I know they're gonna have to. They're gonna have to after this. So, like, really, the Golbez arc. The Golbez arc is okay. The Golbez Zero, you know, it's okay. I'm more interested in where we're going, and I'm more interested in like, and like you say, like they like pulling from old stuff isn't a bad thing, because I kind of have a theory about what we're going to be dealing with next. I mean, again, we Mike and I have talked about this. Like, of course, we're going to Meracidia.
Oh yeah.
Again, I say we're going to the New World. So
why?
What is, yeah, well, why not? It's been alluded to. One, it's been alluded to so much, through Blue Mage, through Craft or Quest. We're going to the New World eventually.
We're going everywhere.
How, like,
Sly.
I want to know what Golbez and Zero are, like, what this arc is alluding to. Like
how do we get
always
there?
There's always a bigger bad.
Right.
And I'm trying to figure out who the bigger bad is, like who's behind the scenes. Like, I feel like there's something behind the scenes with Golbez. And I just want to know, like, I want to know how we're going to get from point Z to A1, essentially. I've had this theory in the back of my head for the longest time that,
you know, we're going to the next
New
4
World
expansion.
Sly.
He's been on Reddit, he said.
I mean, I've been on Reddit, but this is just a personal Sly theory. Like, I have a theory that, like, again, the New World is kind of what, an allusion to what we would consider like America, I guess.
The 1700s Native America, yes.
Yeah. I have a feeling that once we get to the New World, we're gonna deal with sin.
Oh, Sin's gonna be there.
Oh,
Why?
Please,
Sin,
dude.
like, I feel like
Please.
Sin is the big bad in the New World, because of the parallel belief system. Like, in like 1700s America, like, I think of Christianity, I think of, you know, Native Americans and whatnot, and I think, like, really, like, the New World, like, it's sin. Well, I'm not even gonna talk about.
I'm gonna stop you there.
Let's
Yeah,
not
no,
go there.
I'm gonna shut you. I'm gonna shut that down.
New class
right
Blitzballer,
now.
baby!
We're not. There's no Blitzball in the New World. Okay, just putting that out there.
We're not gonna go to Blitzball, but I really think that sin is going to be the big bad in the New World.
I would fucking love that, dude. Final Fantasy X was my first Final Fantasy. I don't give a fucking send it, dude. I subscribe to that. Let's do it.
Also, and yes, I do want barbecue, because they did say barbecue was in the New World. So yes, I do want barbecue.
I would like barbecue. You know, actually, wait a second. Have you done the Studium quest lines?
That's where I got it from.
Yeah,
That's where I got the info.
yeah.
That's where I got the info. I'm like, wait, shut the fuck up. They got barbecue in the New World.
I was like,
Let's go.
what the fuck? He's like, we stand around the barbecue and read poetry. I'm like, motherfucker, what? Please. I need that.
What's interesting is that we actually kind of have a scope for the New World. Obviously, we have the real world to base it off of: North America, South America, Latin America, Canada. You know, we have the general landmass, idea. But we also know Emmett mentioned the golden cities of the New World, which you'd imagine more, focus more towards like Middle to South America versus North America. So, I'm curious the scope of how many different cultures and ordeals there probably are over there.
Well, I mean, isn't that, pardon my ignorance here, this is going to sound real fucking dumb, but isn't that like the region in which like we first made landfall when we came from Europe was like in the Central American region and like Southern American region? We didn't land in the United States where they are now. So the New World, I mean, that's where they fucking landed, like El Dorado type shit, Yeah. That'd be fucking sweet. Like Mesoamerican, like, that would be, I'd fuck with that. The whole, I mean, it could be huge. It could be fucking huge. It could be a whole continent's worth, multiple continents.
It's a whole half of the world that's unexplored, and they have and you know what? With Final Fantasy XI, they have a lot of history of ignoring about half the size of the world.
True. So, I mean, Corvos is something that we'd like to get to as well at some point. Corvos is between Radzadhan and Garlemald. Yeah. So at some point, we'd like to go there. I mean, Raha's alluded to it before. I mean, that's where he's from. So there's a lot of really cool places I'd like to explore. But New World being, I mean, Emmett, fucking spoiler alert, Emmett, dude. Like, everything that he has alluded to so far has had a meaning, The treasures beneath the bounty, the fucking true identities of the 12. Like, both of those things have had huge, huge meanings. And, it's kind of crazy. So I mean, I think, Emmett may have just mapped out a little bit more literally than we think. So that's a possibility.
I think the next Rising, we go back to the Square Enix office and it's just Emmett in a cubicle just writing out the next expansion. Wait, you're not supposed to be here.
There's like weird shit in that dialogue too. Like there's Hythlodaeus' dialogue at the end there where he says, perhaps we'll meet again in another life, with new parts for all to play. And it's like, what the fuck, dude? Like, what do you mean by that? Like, are you guys going to return to the star and are you coming back one day? Or like, what does that mean? There's so many little allusions that they make at the end there. So it is interesting, Sly, especially to think about, like, from where we are now, how would we get to like the Meracidia part? Like, and Azhdaya and Vricho, you think would be probably like essential to that. That makes me wonder, like, why is it that Vritra and Azhdaya are so inherent in this story? That's got to tie to Meracidia, you think, right? Like, yeah, in some kind of way. So yeah, I think I don't have the idea of how it happens, but I would love to go to Meracidia so fucking bad. So I'm with you.
It's been on a lot of people's mind. Yeah. Like that. I mean, where else are we going to go? Another shard?
Dude, can I share with you a pet theory on a shard?
Oh, please.
Okay. I would love so bad for Hildebrand and Godbert and that family and that lineage. I would love for them to be from another shard, and that shard to be where Manderville actually is. Like, the place where they come from. And Manderville is full of them. And just nothing but people like them who have, like, superpowers that we can't explain. Right?
So they're basically from Krypton.
Yes! Yes! Yes.
That would explain Julian. That would explain the entire family strength. Yeah, yeah.
We're getting an Aliens on the Moon arc right now. Like, we're getting, like, conspiracy theory aliens. I don't know. I have no evidence to substantiate the claim whatsoever, but someone suggested, what if Manderville was a place one time in the chat? And I was like, holy shit. Like, what if it's on another shard or something? Or maybe some Alligans escaped with some teleportation technology back before they were struck by the calamity, and they escaped with some cloning technology, and there's been Alligans slowly repopulating another shard and gaining dominion over it. We go there and we get to see this full-blown Alligan civilization that is like taking over or preparing to like come take the source or something. Anyway, just spitball random ideas of what we could see on the shards, and Emmett makes that comment. The civilizations on the other shards may surprise you. And I just kind of wonder what he means by that.
Oh, I don't know that Manderville is a I like
Dude,
the thought
please.
of Emmett knowing Manderville is a place.
Take me to Manderville. No, it's just I think that'd be maybe the Manderville Golden Saucer is a spaceship.
Okay, now you're actually the guy with the blown out hair doing
I mean, it floats in the sky, doesn't it?
Does it? It does.
I don't know if it does. I don't know. It might be connected to a building or a rock. I have no idea.
I believe it's connected to the ground. But you know, like most buildings are, it's connected to the ground.
I just remember seeing it from southern Thanaland, and it looked like it was in the skies.
Yeah, that's how we'll send the poo-poo home, through the gold saucer. They'll just launch out of the gold saucer.
You never know. But anyway, that's obviously totally random spitball theory type shit. But yeah.
Oh, I know. You're right. I do know. Hey, you know what? That just means that you're extra looking forward to the Manderville quests in 0.35.
Honestly, after A Realm Reborn, they got way better, dude. They got way better. If like, and I hate to say it, but that's just kind of the trend with the game. And so I'm not surprised that Hildebrand kind of followed suit. And, you know, the humor just has points where it's really dry and really drawn out, almost like the wine quest type shit, where it's like, you're almost kind of putting in my face that you're wasting my time in this quest. And as a player, I kind of don't like that. But after you get through that and you get to Heaven's Ward, I thought it got way better. I thought the humor was more varied, you know. It was not always so dry or so slapstick all the time. Hildebrand got a lot better, and I have enjoyed the quest line so far. In I almost said Heaven's Ward, in Endwalker.
No, you can say Heaven's Ward, because if you don't feel anything doing the GG plot in Heaven's Ward, you don't have a soul. That's
Papa Hildy. That's the voice I gave him the whole time, dude. Can I be a real boy,
you know,
Papa Hildy?
Vivi does have a voice. You know who does Vivi's voice?
Who?
Phil and Lil from Rugrats.
No way, really?
World of Final Fantasy, yeah. Phil and Lil from Rugrats.
Damn, dude, that's part of my childhood back then, dude. I played the video game.
The Rugrats one, yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, I played it too. There's a lot of them, but awesome. Yeah, I've played one or two. Yeah. Yeah, and then in Kingdom Hearts 2, it was Alphonse, Elric, sorry, yeah, from Full Metal. Yeah. So there's a few pretty recognizable voice actors who have done Vivi at some point. But for me, the Phil and Lil one always made more sense. I was like, that, you know what? That fits, because then I imagine all the mages sound similar, and then it's fun because Phil and Lil are twins anyway. It works out.
That works out. Sorry, my brother is messaging me and distracting me. I apologize.
That's fine. I constantly am looking at other devices just because my brain moves too fast. For my brain.
Relatable.
My brain moves too fast for my brain.
I have us all on the screen in 3 different places. That's fucked up.
Yeah. I relate to that. No. But no, seriously, if you haven't done Heaven's Word, Hildebrand, please go do it.
Oh yeah. You should catch up on all of it, honestly. I think it's pretty good after you finish Realm Reborn.
Well, another part I wanted to kind of touch on with you, Pyro, is the 12.
Huh.
Aglaia and Euphrosyne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cracks fingers.
Mm-hmm.
So did we even get the chance to talk about Aglaia last time with you? I don't think we did.
I don't know if we did. I hope. I don't know. I don't know if we did.
I can check.
But
so you want to start there?
Yeah. So yeah. So this is hands down my favorite part of the game.
Wow.
And
that's saying something.
The reason, there's a couple reasons. One, it's a pantheon of gods. So, and I That was my favorite part.
I was like, there's a couple of reasons.
There's a couple reasons.
Please don't say Nafika.
No, I don't. Twitch chat will say that for me. Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a but yeah, it's a
pantheon of gods, which I really loved from WoW. It was my favorite thing in World of Warcraft. I studied that pantheon more than any other subject in the game. And because of who these people are and the meaning. And for me, there was a lot of meaning because I got it all right. Like, I kind of guessed all of it. That just was revealed to us in Efrosini. Literally all of it. And I was blown away by how much they gave to us in this raid. And, and by what I mean is, back when we were in Aglaya, and I've always found the 12 interesting. I try to pay very close attention to cutscenes and dialogue. And when we were first going through Adamnesis and Niter back in Shadowbringers and back in Amaurot, or not in Amaurot, but it was underneath the sea. What's his face took us to it, but
Bismarck.
Bismarck, thank you. We see in the cutscene Vana, and we see 12 other people, and I saw that, and I always made note of that. There was 12 people there, and that was always a very peculiar number to me because we have 12 gods, and it was with Vana, and these people, you know, what Vana stood for was this virtue, this hope for mankind, right? That they were not going to just summon this god that was going to fix their problems, that they Vana figured out that this was going to just lead to them destroying themselves. And so these people that followed her and believed in her and presumably had similar virtue joined with her to sacrifice themselves to create Hydaelyn. Now here's the thing, is that there's a short story called A Friendship of Record on the website that I read through several times, and in that you learn about Vana's kind of confidant, so to speak, as she is learning and growing. So this guy was an archivist at Anamnesis and Niter when Vana first became an archivist at Anamnesis and Niter. And he saw this deep passion within her for knowledge and for Ferraris and books and Lamborghinis. No, I'm just kidding. For knowledge and for cosmic knowledge.
I was thinking, and I'm glad you said it.
And for enlightenment. Right? And he was always there for her. Every time she came back to him in need of some information, a cosmological tome, something that would help her in her studies, he was there to help her find it. And so he watched her become an archivist and watched her become a Zem and take up that mantle. And unfortunately, through that, their relationship became a little more strained because of the formalities that are involved with being a Zem. Right? They can't talk to each other the same way. He doesn't feel that he can address someone of her stature, of her seat, adequately anymore. She doesn't like that very much, right? This makes her upset. So this shows that they cared about each other. They have this connection. They want to be around each other, but this Azem thing has kind of made it a little hard. Well, we learn that this individual was there with her in the final moments before she became Hydaelyn with the other people. So we know that this guy was present that day. We also know that individual is the Watcher. That individual becomes who we know as the Watcher on the moon, modeled off of Fusoya from Final Fantasy IV. Now, in the dialogue with the Watcher and with the dialogue in the short story, the word rebirth, reborn, is used. And I want to highlight this because words like that I don't think should be taken lightly. The Watcher talked about how through this process with Hydaelyn, he was reborn. Not just washed away and that some other figment of him who now he is the representation of who the Watcher used to be. No. He talks about it as if he's the same person. And this is very interesting because we find out later in the raid in Ephrosyni that one of the gods has a dialogue line that is absolutely word for word identical with a person that you can find in Elpis who is speaking to their brother, just like Nemea is speaking to Althik. Word for word, the same dialogue, only the name is changed. So these are people. They're the same people. They're not lost. They weren't destroyed. These people weren't destroyed when this happened, when Vanad did this, which is what everyone was convinced of. These people were not destroyed. What we learn going into Ephrosyni is that these 12 gods are not coincidental. And I knew this. I fucking knew it going into it. I knew that these 12 people were the followers of Ana. I always had a feeling because they are non-interventional, as they highlight in Ephrosyni. They do not come down and fix your problems. That's not what they're for, right? They're not primals. They're not meant to suck up your ether and eat away the land and as a result give you powers that are unnatural because they're fueled by this faith that creates a thing that really is not good, right? They're formed out of the desire for mankind to succeed. They're born out of the hopes and dreams of mankind. They are shaped by, probably at this point, by Dynamis, to be honest with you. That's what it's looking like. And considering that Vana is aware of the Medium thing and is aware of the Dynamis thing, like, she didn't have her mind wiped. She knows about that stuff. It doesn't surprise me that in the final days, there was a plot put together to make this happen. Let me backtrack because I'm getting real deep in this. Let me backtrack. So there's things you have to realize about the gods, 12 gods. From the get-go, before we even went into Aglaia, there's something that's important. Okay? They all represent an element. Fire, Levin, wind, ice, earth, whatever. Okay? And one is for the astral and one is for the umbral.
One is for the umbral. Yep.
Right. Balance. We see immediately, as a pantheon, they represent balance between all elements. So, in Elpis, they have an area called the 12 Wonders. And the 12 Wonders is a big, basically elemental, alchemical reader that tells them what the balance of the elements in Elpis is. And through the side quest, you can find out that adjusting the elements for them, the ancients in Elpis, was as easy as breathing. This is not hard for them. They had a deep understanding of elemental nature and balance. Which is why even, unfortunately with Dynamis, which is why in the final days, even with all that knowledge, it didn't save them, right? All their knowledge of etherology, they couldn't save them. Then you look at the fact that, like, they're all humanoid. That's interesting. They're all depicted as humanoids for the most part.
Wait. Hang on. Weren't those the forms they took on? Like, they said, like, these are the forms that, the
people gave
the people, I guess, their
yes,
the people who believed in them, that they gave them essentially.
That's not surprising though. If you look at like real religion, like most people when they depict like God or some godlike being, like they may have animalistic traits or like animal, but a lot of the times they are, it's a common sort of transcendence, especially if you're thinking like you're children of gods or anything like that.
Right,
and so I say that not as a chosen form.
Yeah.
But they were humanoid before as well. And they are there for mankind, right? Who are all going to be humanoid, inevitably. The point more so is that I just found it interesting. Wow, they all kind of look this way. I wonder, again, this is before Aglaia. This is before Ephrosyni, before we knew these things, right? Why do they look this way? And I started to think about like, what is their purpose? What have they done for us? What have they actually done? Like, they have helped us find hope. They've helped us find faith. They've helped us find commerce and trade. They've helped us establish city-states that through faith in them, has kept those civilizations alive through insurmountably harsh conditions like Ishgard and Halone, for example, right? They do what a god in real life is supposed to do, if I'm allowed to say that like they're meant to inspire mankind to bring out the virtue within themselves. It's not about you pray to the gods and they come down and save you, right? That's what primals are, and that's why these things are different. And so I look at it and I see, these guys have been here basically like since we've recorded history, at least as early as the Third Umbral Era, and we have no idea where they came from, but they're divine in essence. They seem to give mankind virtue, hope, reason to live, reason to expand, reason to do this, that, or the other. They've given us guidelines. They've given us principles, morals, just like religion has done for people in real life. But the thing is that they can't appear to you. And there was one comment that was made by one of my mods in the Discord. He said, this is after we got into Aglia. He said, it seems apparent to me that the gods are showing us exactly what we want to see. And I went, you know what? In a sense, you're right. He absolutely was right. It made me think, after we go into Aglia, everything that we see in here is exactly like it's described in the encyclopedia. Word for word. It is identical. Their descriptions, the way they look, Nafika's teats, right? All this stuff is exactly what we thought it was going to be. Right? I started to see that as early as Aglia, and I went, it's shaped by us. It's shaped by us. Like, it's shaped by what we believe is there. That's why it's there. And they put it there because of that. Like, it's there because of our influence. And we saw this in Efrosini with the moon, that in the Menfina fight. But back to it, like, they always seemed to be potentially inspired by the Convocation members. Like, how when you start reading about their charges in Efrosini as they're going around the thing in the middle, the fucking envelope, what the fuck ever they called the thing. They have a term for it now, but I can't remember what it's called.
The Omphalos. What's
monument? In the Omphalos? It's in the monument. Thank you. I guess is what they call it. And it's listing off each of like what they focus on. And if you actually go through and you read of all the Convocation members, a lot of that is actually very fucking similar. Like, this person focuses on flora and fauna. This person specializes in aquatic wildlife in the oceans. This person specializes on this, and this, right? So there was a lot of similarities there as well. There was so much linking the 12 back to the ancients. You walk into the Omphalos and you see the Amarat spirals on the top of their little towers, which look exactly the same. The pods themselves almost look exactly the same as the Loporrit ones do on the moon, which also have the same swirl, by the way. Like, that's coincidental and kind of weird. There's also the fact that the Omphalos was floating over Silver Tear Falls, which seems to be like the center of the fucking world, the center of Eorzea, where the font of magic sits, and the place where Hydaelyn wanted Midgardsormr, her most probably significant ally ever, kept Silver Tear Falls safe from the Garlands, and kept Mordona safe, where the Seventh Heaven Inn is located, where the entrance to the Seventh Heaven, the Omphalos, is also located. So through this quest line, as you go through Aglia and Efrosini, you kind of see Snowgem, the researcher, kind of bugging out, kind of like I am right now, because she's seeing this and going, this is not a coincidence. This is fucking destiny. Like, this, we were brought into this place by Derek, who at this point I am 100% convinced is Oshan.
Yes, who is also the Wanderer, who draws a parallel to Azim itself. Yeah.
Yep. And people look for that Azem Azema thing, right? As we talked about, I think we talked about this before, maybe, that Azem is definitely more parallel to Oshan. It's not even close. And that's, I think, why Oshan is with us and guiding us through this, and why he has such kind of solemn words for you at the end of the raid, and kind of somber words about when he has to, when we finally do have to part ways. He's going to be very saddened by that. And I think that part of that has to do with him maybe feeling a connection to us. because he is very likely modeled off of us. And we learn in Ephrosyni that there's more to the 12. There's more to this, and there's more than 12. We learn about the secret one, the unnamed one, which, with the help of one of my Discord members, Hazius, and a sub of mine, we predicted accurately that the Watcher was one of the 12 gods, and was secretly one of them. And during the Ephrosyni raid, at the end of the descriptions for the gods, I have them all screenshotted.
Yeah, I'm looking at them right now. The one that says "He who is unnamed."
Yes. Do you mind reading that? If you have it. I just wanted to get the exact quote so I don't fuck it up.
Where did I put it? You mean tell me I got every one of them but the unnamed one? Fuck.
Yeah, there's no way that I managed to do the same.
Yeah. We've been the same fucking shit. God damn it.
Don't worry. Sooner or later, chat will get done waiting for you guys to find it, and they'll just...
Fuck it, I'm gonna read them all. As beings who endure by the will of the star, we are susceptible to the influence of hopes and prayers, which hopes, you know, sounds like dynamis to me. Thus do we commit our yokes herein. But again, the point is, hopes and prayers. This ties back into what I'm so ADHD, man. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking scatterbrained. Earlier, I was trying to say one of the things that stood out about the 12 to me is their non-intervention, right? It's about people discovering the hope themselves and finding a way through the darkness, which is what Hydaelyn stood for the whole time. That was like the root of why she was doing what she did, was her love for humanity and the hope that mankind would find a way where the ancients failed, right? So the 12 align with that motive. When we got into Aglaia later, we also found out that when calamities happened, the 12's influence spread, which could have been coincidental, but the fact is that when calamities happen, Zodiark gets stronger, Hydaelyn gets weaker, but also the 12's influence spreads. So, because of that, they were almost kind of like, I don't want to say a contingency, because they were never meant to be a contingency. They were never meant to come down and save us, which is why we learn that at the Battle of Carteneau, and I want to make this very clear because I still get questions about this today. At the Battle of Carteneau, when Louis Sois and all of us used our combined faith in Eorzea to call down the power of the 12, that was not really the 12. That was the primal manifestation of the 12. But what I found so remarkable about that is it was perfectly what we would expect from the 12. All of their fucking symbols, light blue magic. It's what we believe they are. It's what we believe they are. And as we found out as we went through the raid, they are literally shaped by everything we believe. Dalamud, when it was constructed in the sky and people started worshipping it, the only reason Menfina's hound that you fight in the fight exists is because we believe it does. That's the only reason it's there. Halone has become a little bit more up her ass, or I think that's what they said, or maybe it's the other way around, over the last couple millennium because of the influence of people in Ishgard. And the people that worship her, they were literally shaped by us. So to go back to this, as beings who are susceptible to the influence of hopes and prayers, we commit our yokes herein lest we stray from our purpose. He who is named Byergot shall preside over construction, his duty to fortify the works of men and encourage them to build. As soon as they started going into this dialogue, my heart started fucking racing. Because I knew that as soon as they started putting words in there, like, the works of men, encourage them to build. We put our yokes in for the prayers and hopes of mankind. I knew that they were going down the line of confirming what I had been believing the whole fucking time. That these were her followers that have been looking over us the whole time. And they have made a great sacrifice and have had to wait thousands of years, just like, in a different sense, in the sense like the others, the Void Sent do, right? So, anyway, yeah. the point is that they ended up being what we wanted them to be, what we've always believed them to be. So yeah, I kind of got thrown off by a little bit of a distraction. I'm being messaged again in my by my brother. So do you guys mind if I continue? Am I okay?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay. Yeah, you're on your grind right now.
Okay, apparently I'm imposing, so I just want to make sure I'm not imposing.
No, you are not.
Okay.
We are taking this shit in. I might get some whiskey. Go ahead.
The next dialogue is, she who is named Azema shall preside over the sun. Her duty to nurture its life-giving light and illuminate the truth for all to see. And then the next one, of course, he who is named Naldthal shall preside over the subterrane. His duty to make gleam the riches hidden deep in the darkest depths and in men and themselves, etc., etc. So we go on to Nafaka, Althik, Halone, Menfina, Thaliak, Nemea, Limlane, and then Oshan here at the end. Oshan, he who is named Oshan, shall preside over the mountains. His duty to sustain the breath of the firmament, and in wandering share in men's solitude. And that, I mean, that's Azem. I mean, hail and whole. That is the description of what Azem does. Sustain the breath of the firmament, and in wandering share in men's solitude. Learn the truth of the hearts of man. And then to follow this one, he who is unnamed, so a 13th unnamed god, shall watch, unflinching, his duty to stand guard over his charge, always and unto the end. Which is, of course, confirmation that the Watcher on the moon, who was also present when Hydaelyn was born, is one of the 13 gods. The reason why he's not spoken about is because he's too fucking dangerous to let people know that he exists. Because of what he's guarding. And the immediate question that people will ask is, why is he spread across the shards and the other 12 aren't? Here's why. Because Zodiark got spread across all the shards. And you can't take all the power, whatever power in their souls that those people had, probably best not to expunge all of that trying to thin it out over the shards. Take one person and split him up, let him watch, and don't tell anybody that he exists. Because if you do, they will go and they will fucking loose Zodiark. Golbez went to the fucking moon and he killed the Watcher. And that's caused probably a lot of problems on the 13th. So that just goes to show how important it is that no one knows that he's there. The unnamed one that goes without anybody noticing. Here's my theory about the raid here. The final boss is going to be the Watcher, in my opinion. I hope that it's going to be like fighting Fusoya. I hope that he calls down comets. And I hope that he calls down meteor. And I hope it's fucking awesome. That's what I hope. I hope that we get to fight the Watcher as the final boss. What I think, however, as a kind of a counterpoint to myself, is that if one of the 12 is the most skilled in combat, I'd probably guess that it's Oshan. And even though Derek likes to walk around and pretend like he doesn't fight anything, and he doesn't know how to do, he's pacifist, I think that's bullshit. I think Oshan probably kicks some ass if he wanted to, because I know Azem kicks some ass if he wants to, and I know Vana kicks some ass if she wanted to. So I don't believe this notion that Derek doesn't fight. So I think Oshan will be the second to last boss. Yeah.
The question on everybody's mind. The fuck is that Oppo?
I think the Oppo is just a monkey. I think, honestly, like, and they say that. They even say that in the clip. They're like, perhaps it's just a monkey. Like, perhaps it's really just an Oppo. And I honestly am kind of thinking that it is. He just showed compassion to a wild animal. And I think it was meant to be the red herring, obviously, I think, because we know that they take the form of little minions. We know that Derek, honestly, he looks just like Oshan is supposed to look. Red hair, green cloak and adventuring. And, he kind of depicts Oshan, and he has burgundy hair. So the idea of red herring is more of a pun than you realize. But I think the Oppo is the red herring. It was the one thing we were all like, that's Oshan, I think. It's either Derek or it's Oshan. And then in the most recent raid, the way Oshan talks to you, the way they talk about the monkey, the Oppo, I think they made it obvious that the Oppo is not Oshan at this point. But that's my take on that.
What's interesting about that monument even having mention of the Watcher is something you said earlier. All of that is because we believe it's there. So
well, yes, to an extent. The realms in which they reside, I think, are born of our hopes and those kinds of things. The Omphalos itself, I'm not so sure. I think the Omphalos was actually probably crafted, like made physically. I think the ether there, and then when we get in there, like the way that we interact with the ether and our Grahatia's acknowledgement of the ether is like, yeah, there's a lot of ether here, which is like, okay, that's cool. But when Grahatia went into the realms with us this last time with that big fucking thing on his back, he took a bunch of readings that we don't get to see yet, for the record. So I think those readings might come back that there's not that much ether and there is a fuckload of dynamis. I think that's probably what we're going to find out. And that's why he's taking etheric readings. Why the fuck else would we be doing that? We already know they're not primals. They've already told us they're not sucking ether out of the land. So I feel like the only reason we even measure that is to find out that there's not a lot of ether. One other thing, and to say that's why I guess I would say, in that respect, there is a certain outline. There is a certain defining. They wanted these gods to be something, right? Like, it wasn't a blank slate that mankind just shaped from the very get-go. They seem to be created, like Sly and I were kind of alluding to earlier, with inspiration from the Convocation. Like, they had some idea of what they wanted from this initially. I would also note, however, that some of them may not have had fully an idea of what was going to happen because in the short story, the Watcher who gives Hydaelyn the final piece of cosmological wisdom that was necessary for her to perform this fucking thing that she does to become Hydaelyn, he doesn't know the full truth of that information. And he mentally acknowledges that she has probably kept some stuff from him and that he doesn't know the full truth of what's going to happen to them. And that is the line that left it open for me. Like, if they're gonna put it like that in the short story, I don't believe that they're gone. These people could still be those 12 people, because if they're reborn through Hydaelyn, like, how much do we really, like, we might know. And then, as we talked about earlier, going back to Ephrosyne, we now know that Nemea and her brother can be found as the ancients that they were in Elpis. The Watcher can't. And I want to make that clear, because the Watcher says to you, during his time, during our time in Elpis, he would have been an Anamnesis Aniter, which is an Amaroth. So we would not have met the Watcher in our time to Elpis. But, and I'll finish with this, the thing that blows my mind the most about that, for people who haven't seen that, it is line for line the exact same dialogue. And the only way that you would have been able to catch this is if you remembered that from the Ether Current unlock quests, the one-time unrepeatable quests that you did from back when you first went through Elpis, that is the dialogue that has the quote that matches. Not a side quest you can go do now, not a repeatable quest. It was a one-time offhand quest that they hid this in, and someone on Twitter found it. Some random person on Twitter noticed it and posted it, and if they didn't, I don't know if we'd be sitting here talking about this right now. Which is insane. The stuff that they hide in this game is fucking crazy. That blew my mind. Now I'm going back through Opus and I can't fucking stop. I can't walk by someone without stopping to read their dialogue. I'm like, who are you? Is this Nafika? Her tits aren't big enough. It can't be possible. So I'm like, you know, it's fun. It's exciting.
We made those, remember?
Yeah, technically, you're not wrong. We say Nafika's tits. And we say it enough times that eventually it might become true. So honestly, yeah, it's been awesome, man. And they hint the little things so much in the story. When you go to Ul'dah,
and apparently the big things too.
The big things too. You go to Ul'dah and you go to learn about Nodthal, and Oshan's with you, and Oshan's really nervous about going there to talk about, or not Oshan, Derek is with you. He's really nervous to talk about Nodthal and his followers and stuff. a lot of people wouldn't know, Oshan created Naldthal. So it might be a little nerve-wracking for Oshan to go with us and be like, oh yeah, this is Naldthal, and like, this is my guy, right? So, you know, there's little hints in everything.
Do we invoke Thal's balls every time we say that too? Because like,
yeah,
we're
I mean,
affecting
he drops,
we have to be affecting Naldthal too.
Yeah,
I think
that's why he drops his balls on us in the raid fight.
And you know what? When I saw the balls coming down from the sky, I said, "Bring your balls! Rejoice!" I had no qualms with that. I was excited when I saw Thal's balls. Can I tell you one more little personal theory? Then I'm going to shut up for a minute while you guys talk.
Okay.
Okay.
Dynamis is stored in the balls.
There's one other quirk about the 12 I think is very important. One of them, their creation is not accounted for. We know how the Watcher came to be, and through the creation mythos, we know how every god came to be except one. Oshan.
Yeah.
Oshan, the Wanderer, randomly, literally wandered in one day and became part of their pantheon with them. Wandered in. Now, I want you to realize something. We have one too many god here. We have one too many gods. We have 13 gods. We have Vana and 12 followers, plus Hydaelyn. How did we get 13 gods with only 12 followers? I would just ask you a question. If you were Azem, freely doing whatever you wanted to do around the world, and you heard, and we know Azem likes to make familiars. So to make a long theory short, I think that it's possible that Oshan is not only inspired by Azem, but is a creation of Azem. And I think that part of the reason why Oshan may feel connected with us is because, in a sense, he's kind of a replication of us. And I think Oshan was always meant to be the Wanderer. He was always meant to be the one to pull us into this, right? He's the adventurer that randomly showed up and found the entrance to the Omphalos. He just came out of nowhere. And it's because of him that we're here. Without Derek doing all this, we don't go into Ephrosyni. We don't go into the Omphalos. So it all hinges around the fact that he was even a part of this, and the fact that he ends up being the last one on the ring, except the Watcher, of course. And he seems heavily inspired by Azem, and we're missing a person to account for this 13th god. I think it's very possible that Azem created Oshan. And Oshan is one of the only reasons why the 12 were successful in the way that they have been. And why the concept of the afterlife and like the whole Naldthal thing, why that's even a thing. Because without Oshan, Naldthal doesn't come to exist. And this is raw speculation here, but it just seems within the realm of Oshan's or Azem's mind and Azem's thinking to consider like the afterlife and giving people a reason to not be terrified of the end and not, you know, we not begging gods for, you know, to do these things because these gods can't come down and do it. And we see it in the cutscene. We see who is it, Menfina or Halone, even one of those two, right in front of them. Right in front of them. You know how hard that must be? To sit there and hear someone beseech your name and beg you for some kind of like, just give me a break here, help me somehow, and you can't say anything to them? That's got to be so hard, you know? Especially considering they love mankind. Especially Menfina. She's the lover, you know? So it's very deep. I think there's a very deep connection to these 12. And I think at the end of the raid, the last wing of which will most certainly be called Thalia, at the end of the raid, I think we're going to see them all for the people that they really were in their ancient forms. And I think all of them are going to return to the star. I think all of them are going to be released from their vigil, from their watch over mankind. They've tested us. Hydaelyn's gone. We are rooted in our beliefs now. The people of the world are already rooted in their beliefs. The gods can go away and it doesn't make a difference. Because as we've seen, they didn't help at Cartano. They don't help with the calamities. They don't come down and save us, right? And their job is done. Their job's done. And I think that as all ancients would want, and this theme with the void, what's going on with the void? We've been around for a long, long time and we just really want to die. It's kind of strange. And I think that that's parallelism. I do. I think that that's meant to parallel with the attitude happening here. I think that we are going to discover the truth of who they are, and we will be the one as Azem, as the champion of Hydaelyn, to release them from their eternal vigil. That's what I think the culmination of this raid is going to be. All of them will go away. So,
and to boot, so I'm sure if you know the name of the 3 raids, as you said, we have Aglaya, Euphrosyne, and Thalia, then you know what the portal in the back technically is as well. Should technically be an entrance to Abyssos, which would be the afterlife.
All I'm saying is that in Pandemonium, Athena learned how to make gods. The wrong way.
Very wrong way.
The wrong way. And remember, Ellentill is there finding out what's happening on behalf of Azem, who is good friends with Vana. And this is pre-sundering. I'm going to tell you some fucked up shit. I'm not going to go through the whole explanation to substantiate this because I've spoken a lot, and I know that's what I'm here for, but I am pretty sure that Athena has Erichthonios and Hephaestus. I'm pretty sure they were tempered to her. Like proto-tempered, to the extent of like, I think Erichthonius has this unnatural draw to figure out why he was so essential in the resurrection of his mother. And I'm pretty sure that Claudian, the dark-skinned, red-eyed researcher that looks just like Erichthonios that we've been working with, pretty sure he's a shard of Erichthonios and that he's going to lead to the resurrection of Athena. Pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Because
Athena, he takes the memory crystal, disappears, he takes the memory, and now Pandemonium's in the ethereal sea. Yeah.
Yes, and Athena's whole plan is to be resurrected. That was the whole fucking deal, okay? So in my opinion, Athena's the final boss of the raid, and she's going to be fucking terrifying, first of all. And so what I think happens, what I think could happen, this is kind of my theory at the moment, I think La Habrea ends up consuming the knowledge that was in the crystal. I think he probably ends up rebonding with Hephaestus. The reason why is because I think in the final days, La Habrea probably needed all the fucking knowledge he could get to figure out how they were going to make this Zodiarch thing work. And I have a feeling that some of the information that was necessary for the summoning of Zodiarch might have been hidden in the information that Athena gave to him when they did that little mind link thing that made him kind of freak out. And he's like, get the fuck out of here, right? He severed that part of himself. I have a feeling that part is going to probably come back into play. What some people think is maybe he absorbed that back into himself. They all became tempered. He ends up being the La Habrea we know today. Erichthonios ends up getting sundered. That's why Claudian is a shard of him, right? So that's one idea. There's also ideas that people think that if maybe La Habrea, the old La Habrea dies, and Red La Habrea Hephaestus ends up being the one that we are actually interacting with in current times, which could be part of why he has this identity kind of crisis, why he always hops bodies, why he seems disrespected by the other Asians to an extent, and why he's kind of crazy and kind of like, he was like, he was like an evil mustache twirling villain, right? So there's some people that think maybe that's actually Hephaestus. I don't think that's a bad idea, personally. There's lots of ideas, but I think we're going to see Sabik probably as the second to last boss. I think we'll probably fight Pandemonium, considering there's a Pandemonium in former FF games. And then we're probably going to have to fight Athena as the final boss. The fourth boss, I don't know what it could be. I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. But my bet is that Ellentill takes this information and tells Azem, and some of this information might have actually also been crucial in how Vana ended up figuring out how to do the 12 thing. Because I just find it really weird that we're getting like the Pandemonium story of Athena making gods and finding out that Vana and her followers basically turned into gods. It's like, that's kind of convenient. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that.
I mean, it's in line with what I think a lot of people have been thinking about Pandemonium. I think Athena being the final boss was a foregone conclusion as soon as we found out about her. So it's just the only other thing is the Final Fantasy XI heads being like, it's going to be Pandemonium Warden, which may be one of the bosses that you're.
It could be if I guessed Pandemonium Warden would be first. Excuse me.
That would be a huge insult to 11 fans, but it has to happen.
I don't care. Pandemonium Warden, Sabik. Whoops. No. Sorry, what did I say? I would still need a fourth one. Wait,
Pandemonium Warden, Sabik, Athena. We don't know who the fourth would be. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's all right. Because I said Pandemonium initially. Right.
Why are some people saying it's his? What did I say? Way back. Even though I think it's far fetched. Satan.
It's just straight up Satan.
Satan. Yeah.
Honestly, could happen. I mean, they could. I like the angel, like heaven and hell dichotomy that they're doing between the Alliance raid and Pandemonium, and like what you said, Happy, like Abyssos is what theoretically should connect there. And I mean, when you think about Pandemonium, I guess it was the closest thing that my mind ever saw to like the seven hells, because we've never seen the hells. They apparently exist, but we haven't seen those yet. It wouldn't surprise me. And it also wouldn't surprise me if Pandemonium was always in the Ethereal Sea, in order to pull upon the insane amount of ether that must have been used in the experiments. And I hate to say this, but it makes me kind of sick to think about this. But like when you return to the star, your soul goes to the Ethereal Sea, right? So if Athena and her research facility were always in the Ethereal Sea, theoretically, Athena could be plucking souls of ancients that are returning to the star and using them as fuel for experiments. She could like be plucking dead souls out of the afterlife essentially and using them as fuel, which is fucking twisted. And now to see that Pandemonium is there, whether it was always there or not, is frightening, because it scares me to think of what would happen if Athena was reborn and had access to that exorbitant amount of ether. Like that's terrifying to think about. Now, we always think about what would happen if the outside of our world got fucked up, if the calamity wrecked our world, but what happens if someone tries to fuck our shit up from the inside? That's kind of scary to think about, someone trying to destroy the live stream or something like that. And I hate to say this, but I think the Myths of the Realm is gonna be a raid that ends with happy tears, and I think Pandemonium is gonna be a raid that ends with sad tears. And that is probably going to have to, I'm going to be honest, that's probably going to have to do with Ellentill's quote about making a promise. That's probably going to come into play at the end of Pandemonium, considering he's present. And I think that's really going to crush our souls. I don't want necessarily, but the inside of me wants to see Athena have some kind of virtue where she wanted to come back and bring La Habrea with her and bring Eric Thonios, and that was her plan this whole time, was just find a way to get them to come back. But I just don't think, I don't think it's going to happen.
She's too fucking terrible for that.
Dude, exactly. She's fucking evil, dude. She's fucking evil. And unfortunately, I think it's going to be grim. I think it's going to be really grim.
I'm curious to see how much of past Pandemonium is in the current day Pandemonium, because in theory, obviously we expect to encounter Thaliak and what, something happened?
Nope, we're good.
Okay. I saw your video hiccup like very momentarily, so I wasn't sure. Yeah. You'd assume that Ellentill and Eric would still. I'm sorry, not Ellentill. Ellentill. Yeah, Ellentill and Eric would show up even in the current day one. Are there any other ancients that might show up in the current day one? Like,
it's a good question. They ask them. I think the researchers down there, if you go, because you can go down into the ATS scope and see it. I'm sure you've seen. The researchers make a comment about, like, if Pandemonium is here, like, what about all the keywords inside of it? Like, did they come too? So it makes you wonder, like, is La Habrea and Eric and Themis, did we just pull them into our timeline? And if we did, what the fuck? Like, what does that mean for us? Like, you know, if it's okay, can I ask you guys a question?
Yes.
Sure.
What do you think about the notion that Blue Quest content is side content and that it's not that relevant to MSQ? Like, I hear this take that people kind of, it's like, oh, it's side content, so they won't connect back to each other, right? But I think we're seeing a lot of hinting that the raids and the MSQ are probably going to connect to one another, at least the raids. So what do you guys think about like that notion that if it's side content, it's not, you can do the MSQ and it's going to be irrelevant? What do you think about that?
I present you Exhibit A, Alexander, and Exhibit B, Omega, connected to Exhibit C, the Crystal Tower.
Yeah, yep. I kind of have the same feeling of like, it might not be required now, but Eden might be required soon. Like, you might have to do Eden because you might need to know how Eden works. You know?
Well, I think with the Crystal Tower, they I'll let you go, Sly.
But that's an 8-man raid
like,
too.
just real quick, like, how many times as of recent in patch notes has it been said, or like in live letters has it said, you might want to go back and do yada yada yada, you might want to go back and do Crystal Tower, you might want to go back and do the Four Lords? And like, at the end of the day, something is always going to allude to something, whether it be at that current moment or in the near or far future. Something like side quest content will always kind of hearken to something in the main scenario or vice versa. Like, it's just a matter of time, honestly.
Yeah. There's always, I mean, and they come up with good ways of like incorporating those kind of things without making them mandatory. A great example, the Crystal Tower to me is probably the most impressive way of making something. Keep in mind, I'm not referring to the Crystal Tower quest line itself, which now is mandatory, but the future us, whether or not the current us has done Alexander and Omega raids, the future us to make that Crystal Tower did. And that's how they were able to pull those experiences. So even if you as the player have never done it, it's not illogical to think that, you know, the future Crystal Tower was able to use that story, because we could then go do it afterwards, and now all of a sudden it makes sense.
And that's what I love. Like, this is good storytelling. Like, this is a really good thing. I hope people realize that when you can take a pre-existing side story and make it meaningful and make it impactful for the main story, that is awesome. Like, being able to build upon established characters, established feelings, established entities and concepts, like, it's so invaluable. And I feel like you see it in other games where they try to build new shit all the time, and you see how that goes. You see what happens when other companies don't utilize the great foundational pieces that they already have. Crystal Tower is the best example, obviously, of that, and how it was quintessential in the plot of Shadowbringer. So, like, I would say this, given the speculation, given what we know now about Efrosini, I hate to fucking say this, but you could theoretically not do Efrosini and it wouldn't change anything. And the reason why is exactly what I talked about earlier. Because here's why. The reason why is because you don't need to know that the power of the 12 at Card-to-Know wasn't the 12. You don't need to know who the 12 are. And it's never been main front storyline as a question of who the followers of Anal were either. So that was never really brought heavily into attention either. So you basically have like multiple things that, by virtue of how they've been established, you could theoretically not do think about yourself as a citizen in Eorzea. That's what I'm trying to say. You could theoretically not do Myths of the Realm and nothing in your life would change.
That's how I feel about Nier. The Nier raids.
That's how I see it, at least anyway, is that because everything's already established, they just don't need to. Well, it doesn't change your life. You know what I mean?
It doesn't change your life. I agree with you. Yes and no. Yeah, it's like the 12 aren't really central to a lot of things that are going on right now within Eorzea, within Hydaelyn, quote unquote. No, in the form of, and this is like very, very minute.
That's okay.
You make your character, your character creation, and you have this one option, and people are wondering, well, what the fuck does this have to do with anything?
Fair.
You eventually find out.
Yeah, and I'm like, I see where you're coming from. And like, super stoked, obviously, to find out. I guess what I mean to say is, if we never did find out, it wouldn't. I hate saying this because it makes things sound inconsequential, which is not what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And it's obviously
not, like, you're not talking.
Right.
I understand.
It's obviously very important, but it's like, basically your perception of the world wouldn't have to change because you're not the knowledge that what occurred isn't there. But regardless, yes, I see where
yeah, like I kind of see where I kind of see where you're saying what you're saying and where you're going. At the end of the day, no matter how consequential or inconsequential it may be, really, at the end of the day, it's. I hate to put it in these terms. It's flavor. And it's really good flavor. It's really fucking good flavor. It tastes so goddamn good. But
tastes like tears.
You may not have to
Right.
you may not have to salt your steak, but it will be better with it.
Yeah, okay.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I wanted to try to play devil's advocate with something that was current, as far as like, well, if my argument's going to be that the citizens wouldn't be affected, then theoretically this blue quest line kind of falls in line with that logic. But as you guys mentioned, we've seen time and again where that's not true. Where the blue quest ends up becoming the gold quest with the flame, the meteor around it. And I think that's awesome. I think it's awesome. It brings us back to places that are familiar. It makes use of areas that have already been established, and being able to flavorfully and tastefully. Wow, that's really to tastefully delicious. This is your fault. Sorry.
Fucking delicious.
God damn it. In order to do that tastefully, I think is hard. Alexa, shut up. And so I think it's really cool when they do pull it off, and I'm personally okay with it. But I was just curious what you guys' take on the blue side quest being irrelevant kind of shit was.
I think there are some that are more or less,
MSQ now
because Beast Tribe quests, same deal. I don't have to know. I don't have to interact with them. Hell, the Kikern ones, they actually said there's no canon answer to the way you progress those.
Really?
Yeah. There's no intended path for the Kikern one. Whichever one the player picks is canon to them. But the dev team hasn't decided that one.
Which one's the true timeline?
The Qatari is what I should say.
Right.
Yeah, the dev team haven't decided that one is canon.
Damn. So you're just kind of like it's up in the air in that regard. Fuck.
It's probably it's because you're just shaping a history that you literally have no definitive proof of. Like they're just trying to explain their own history. So there's a truth and there's what you've determined is the truth.
Right. It's about the interpretations therein that happen, and I guess that's probably core to the storyline that's being told.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like our perceptions on what was real and what really happened and that kind of shit.
Yeah, because you're literally just unearthing ruins and going, I think, and then that becomes how they record their history.
I need to do Kikern. Have you done Omicron, right?
Yeah.
Man. Some of that shit feels like that should be in the fucking main story.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not going to spoil anything.
It's essentially the follow-up to all of the Thule, the micro stories in Thule. It's not even, I said it's not even the Omicron quest line. It's the Ultima Thule tribal quest.
Yeah, honestly, it's the Dynamis quest line. Like, without getting into details, you're learning how we can predict and manipulate Dynamis. Like, what do we do to shape things? And when we create something from it, is it alive? Is something birthed of Dynamis a living thing? If it has hopes and feelings and dreams and aspirations, isn't that just as much alive as anything else, whether it's made of Dynamis or ether? Like, how does that work? That's a very deep philosophical question that they're diving into in a fucking tribe quest. And oh man, I guess I just do all the blue quests, you guys. Like, everything is worth looking at. I swear it's if you don't have a gatherer to do the Omicron, just do it. It's so fucking good. You will cry. I promise you will cry. Like, the story's so good. And what you get to create through it is I mean, it's the thing that dreams are made of, we'll say. So
literally.
Yeah.
So well, the remainder of the other story elements of the patch are, as we'll call them, flavor, Tataru, you know, expanding upon and it's a great expansion upon the Four Lords and kind of their progression. Since the initial
I actually haven't done that.
I'll actually leave that to you as a mystery then. It is it is a fitting epilogue to the events of the Four Lords in terms of how they've advanced as I think it is.
Okay.
I don't.
All right. Well, I like this because being the person in the middle without knowing anything is like cool. One person who's on one side.
There's the dialogue that they share with the Warrior of Light. Like you speak.
Yeah.
If you speak to the NPCs specifically, you need to speak to the NPCs while you're doing it.
Right. Get the side quest dialogue stuff.
Yeah, because they there's a lot of meta commentary about their interpretation of I guess their own history, I suppose.
Oh.
Yeah.
Based on their own perceptions of how they came to be?
Well, based on how history has progressed since they came to be.
Yeah.
Oh.
And based on how the people perceive them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As auspices, they're not changing though, right?
No.
No.
Okay. It's a lot about them finding their place or accepting their place or wondering where their place will continue to, because the auspices, as going back to the Four Lords, I mean, their entire purpose was Koryu before. Like that was like one of their chief concerns was Koryu and Tenzin and like, but now all that's behind them at this point.
Was Tenzin, he was the one that like looked out or met them all, right? Was he the Warrior of Light guy? The one that we presume was a Warrior of Light?
Mm-hmm. He was the Warrior of Light from the Far East. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. God, that's been so long ago now. There's so much stuff I ought to replay in this game. Like, no matter how much you write down or how much you think you remember, like, you rewatch stuff. I rewatched the end of Coils of Bahamut the other day, which is way back. I get that, but like, you're there. You have a dialogue with Alice at the very end next to the Stone of Azema. I didn't even know the Mark of Azema was there. And like, what the fuck? Like, there's stuff that you just can't remember. So I would love to go back and get a refresher on the Four Lords. Did they give you a refresher reminder when you go to do this quest, or do you kind of need to remember what happened?
It's better to remember.
Okay.
It's better to remember it.
Okay. I'll go back and review it and make sure I understand, because I can't quite remember why Suzaku was so upset. But
I know why.
I just can't.
You know how we feel about Nafaka? That's how she felt about Tenzin.
Tenzin, please let me smash.
Tenzin, please let me smash.
Let me smash, Biggie, let me smash.
Yeah, as chat calls her, Thirsty Moltres.
That works.
Tenzin, unsheath your sword.
Oh my.
Sheath your sword, I beg of you.
She should have put in that sentence.
Would you like to see my
sword, I beg of you.
Would you like to see my tattoo?
Yes.
By the way.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So
as long as it's not on your ass.
No. So this is something that back when I was like first going through MSQ, I had a sub goal for, and really high sub goal. And then the course of getting married and everything, I wasn't able to immediately act upon it. But I wanted to get a tattoo. So it wasn't like I was forced into doing it or anything. But it's been a while. I've started to get prog on it. So what I did was I commissioned a piece of art from Nippuni, if you're familiar with her. She does a lot of fan art for the game. Some of the more famous fan art pictures of Emmett are done by her. In fact, the one on the wall behind me over there is done by her. If you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yep.
So I'm gonna send this to you guys in this chat right here. This is the art that's actually commissioned, so you can see what the end piece is kind of supposed to look like. I don't know if you want to show that.
It's gonna close. It's gonna close over there. Let's see.
But
okay. You can share it in the chat if you have a method of doing so. If you want to like link it, because if I do it, it's gonna close all of the. Oh yeah, there you go.
Probably do that. But this is the progress so far. I've got Emmett and Hythlodaeus and Vana and Themis all on there. Eventually, there will be different stages of a burning La Habrea mask that come up here from Themis's hands. There will be the moon behind them on the background, and then there'll be Elpis flowers scattered around their feet and kind of floating through the air around them. On the edges, you'll have like the purple and fuchsia, kind of dynamis background that you have in Ultima Thule with some of the destroyed planets on the sides.
and then up here there'll be a moon coming down, and you'll have a smaller silhouette of Hermes with Meteon like in his hand, basically, like he's holding her out like that, like looking at her. And so that's contrasted against. It'll be contrasted against like the light, the world of Aetheris behind it, as like so that it'll silhouette, and then the Ultima Thule thing is like coming down above it. So it's gonna be kind of crazy. It's already kind of crazy, but it's coming along, and I'm really proud of it so far. I hope to have it done by FanFest. So
it's got a ways to go, but it's come a long ways.
Oh yeah,
it is.
I also took my time during that to read your shirt.
Oh, thanks.
I like my whippet and about 3 people.
That's pretty true. But yeah, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I love this game, dude. I love the story. I love the characters, and it's had a big impact on me as a person, honestly. And these storylines that they're telling through the 12 and through the Void and through Pandemonium, you know, still have an impact on me. So yeah, the game just narratively is fucking awesome. And I really can't wait to see what they're going to do with the final wing of Panda and what the final wing of Myths, because I mean, it's just been, in my opinion, it's been really, really awesome so far. You know, besides, I think some difficulty tuning, you know, I think some things are a little too easy. I think the Alliance raid, personally, is a little too easy. I also think EX5
I have a comment about that.
I think EX5 is a little too easy.
I learned something that I didn't know because I've never tried to do it before. You can't min item level 24-mans during their current expansion. I wanted to min item level Euphrosyne with a full 24, and I was like, what the fuck? This is the time I would want to do it most!
I know. I was kind of hoping that it would be a little more chaotic. You know, we kind of like 1 or 2 shot every boss, and I didn't get to play Aglaia on its release. I had no idea about it. My mods somehow kept that a secret from me until I finished Endwalker. But it was, I heard it was chaotic, you know, and on those fights you're getting launched off the edge by Ralgr, and the fucking floor under you's getting pushed by Bayergot, and you know, Azema's spinning around, fucking exploding the room in places you didn't know that she was going to. And this new one, I felt like there was just a little less chaos. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then EX5, you can solo tank, solo heal EX5, which is just disrespectful. I've already farmed out. I have the mount from that already, so there.
I have 100 totems.
Yeah, that's 2 patches. You gotta wait. And,
I know.
That's what I did with my Endsinger.
That's what I did too. My Endsinger was also 100 totems just this last week. The good news is I have 4 samurai swords from Rubicante.
Damn.
I'm the Grievous of samurai swords.
That's a lot of Sam swords.
They're gonna get decent the patch later. And then they're gonna be tucked away on an NPC until they release the glowy versions of the weapons, and then I'll make bank.
Yep, then I'll make big ass money.
Yep. That is always the plan. I have a whole retainer dedicated to that.
Only other narrative thing I think in the patch is like new deliveries, Andon, which we don't know much about yet.
Yeah, we still need more time.
Yeah. The thing about Andon, Andon's going through a bit of an identity crisis. That's it.
Well, he doesn't know who he is. He's trying to figure out who he was as a person.
Yeah, he doesn't know who he is, and they like
the Pixies. Though,
have you done the new deliveries yet? Have you done any of them?
Oh yeah.
So he doesn't know who he is. He it's like, okay, poof, you were a Galgant. Maybe not. I don't know.
Now you're an Ellison.
Now you're an Ellison.
Yeah, they just keep changing his race. I was gonna say, I love how they were like, oh, I knew an Ellison once. Yeah, we used to fuck with him all the time by bringing him sweets he didn't like. And I was like, yeah, come back.
I love that reference. That was fucking awesome. It's got so much charm to it, though. I love Lita Loran, and I did the Pixie quest line is one of the best tribe quest lines in the game. And then there's their zone. I mean, it's you know, frilly and it's childish or whatever, but it's beautiful at the same time. It's yeah.
I spent all of
Super
T-Prog
awesome.
AFK in there.
Yeah, T-Prog just so you could feel good every time you came out of the raid.
I'd ride down a slide and just let it all go.
Speaking of ultimates, bro, I cleared P8S. I'm BIS ready for top, dude.
Are you mentally ready for top?
Are you mentally ready? I'm glad we went the same ways.
Well, you know, I didn't torture myself with DSR, so I think I might have the fortitude.
I think you may have wanted to, so
you won't afterwards.
I've spent a lot of time in UCOB, man. I've spent a lot of time in UCOB. Way more than a clear for 2 should have to take. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Our best, we wiped at 0.2% on ads phase, happy. 0.2! Dude, with everyone healthy, if we would win in a Golden Bahamut, okay, I can do the fucking floor mechanic, all right? I can do that, all right? So if I can handle that, maybe I can do the first phase of top.
I'm so mentally prepared that I feel like I'm too numb for it. Like I think about doing already. Top. You know what I think about doing top, and I'm like, I can't wait to wake up at normal times again.
That's why I can't do it. I can't. No way. I used to raid in WoW. I used to raid 25 hours a week, and that was like a fucking job. No.
I'll be raiding that in a day.
Yeah, I mean,
wait,
well,
that doesn't make sense.
That was after Prog Week schedule. So like day 1 was like 12-hour days. Day 2, first 3 days was like 12-hour days, and then we raided 25 hours a week after that. But it burned me out. We did Kill Jaden. 500 pulls on Kill Jaden, dude. And that was...
What did Jaden ever do? Why do you have to kill him?
Oh, he was such a deceiver, Jaden. That motherfucker.
This is a WoW joke, Sly.
Yeah, I understand.
It's making my stomach
No, but
hurt.
you don't. That's the thing. You don't know what we're talking.
I'm surprised
if you're talking
names.
about. Wait,
I don't know specifically what they're referring to, but I've heard these names.
I'm amazed. You didn't say Muru there.
Can I speculate on that fight a little bit? Is that cool?
About top? Yeah, go right.
Yeah. So a lot of the statics that I know, they're like going back and like doing like less than eye level like Prog and Savage, like Kefka and stuff like that. But I also know that there was I don't know if it's related, and this is just tinfoil speculation, but I know that there were some issues with Shinryu as well.
What do you mean issues?
Like hitbox issues, like the code on Shinryu broke a little bit from one of the most recent things. I know there was pretty sure there was a little micro patch thing that talked about something on Shinryu being adjusted. If that's true,
he did get weapons a few patches ago, but maybe yeah. I mean, I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool. Like it'd be cool to see I mean, and I know that this isn't original speculation, but yeah, like Shinryu versus Omega, you know, seeing that come to fruition, because you know the whole point of Omega's gauntlet and that what it was doing was like trying to gather the data necessary to become powerful enough to kill Shinryu. And so, you know, would kind of make sense, I guess, if we got to see them do battle in some kind of way, or maybe Shinryu came in and like they attack each other for a minute, and it's a phase where we're just dodging attacks, trying not to die. You know, maybe we don't fight them directly, but I don't know. I just thought maybe if there was some kind of coding issue that it could relate to top, but it's like I said, just speculation. So
yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing is that in terms of Omega's story in Final Fantasy XIV, Shinryu is a blip, whereas his long-standing trial is against Midgard-Sormer. Midgard-Sormer is our Shinryu stand-in in 14 for the more lore-accurate Dragonverse robot encounter, which is, of course, expanded upon a little bit in Thule, as they're both present there on opposite sides of Thule itself. One at the lowest, one at the highest. That being said, everybody wants to see Shinryu because it's a classic, it's a long-standing Final Fantasy rivalry. Shinryu being an
people
interdimensional
told me that
game.
about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think back when I went through Omega, people were telling me about that, which is why the Kefka comes up and these other things come up, right? Is because isn't that part of the trope? Is like the interdimensional shit. Like that's part of why they're there.
Well, yeah. So, and do you mind if I talk about Final Fantasy V? I don't know if you've played or plan.
No. I don't plan to play it. I'm playing 6. So
okay, yeah. So in Final Fantasy V, there's basically one real world that is a world where the void is born, and that world is split into two, and in between them is where the void is tucked away. X-Death, who's the last boss of the Delta Scape, solid reference. He wants to merge them back together because that releases the void again. But between the world and the void is the interdimensional rift, which is where Omega and Shinryu are trapped. Omega was sent into the interdimensional rift to destroy Shinryu, and that's where you just find them both. And that's been a long-standing thing across pretty much the rest of the franchise. That's referenced constantly. Even Final Fantasy XII, which doesn't have a Shinryu, you have to defeat Yasmet, who is that world's Shinryu stand-in, before Omega will even activate. So,
oh shit, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's also where all the Gilgamesh stuff is from. He's also from 5. And he also gets lost in the interdimensional rift, and that's it. So outside of Final Fantasy XIV, Gilgamesh is one character present in every other game. It's been stated that our Gilgamesh is not the Gilgamesh from Final Fantasy V. It is a 14. Same with Omega. It is stated that our versions are not the original versions, but for Gilgamesh, there's actually a canon storyline between the Final Fantasy games of him hopping between them.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I love the references. God damn. I mean, the game's just full of them. The Loporrites on the moon and all that stuff. And now, anyway, okay, that's awesome. I know that in 6. So this is I'm gonna have to brush up on this lore because I'm gonna be on the Race to World First podcast thing.
Yeah.
With a spot with Moose talking about lore. And I haven't finished FF6, but I know what I think I know is that Kefka awakens the Triad, he absorbs them, becomes God Kefka, and destroys the world. Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is that enough? Is that enough for me to know?
I don't think you're going to need to know all that because Omega is 5, just to be clear. Yes. So
I know, but
I don't think it's going to be that. I don't think it's that going to be. I don't think
it's going to be that.
I'm not even convinced Kefka shows up for more than one mechanic. I think he shows up to do one thing and he's gone.
I'd be cool with that. Okay, so I'm going to have to more so know about Omega and Omicron's good. Okay,
it's also important to note that our Triad and the Triad and Kefka are unrelated in Final Fantasy XIV.
Right. They're their own thing from Mericidia.
Yeah, they're separated. Yeah, so.
Right.
And all of the Omega things that we see are just legends from different shards, essentially. He just picks.
True, it's not like it would be... Right, I get it. I get what you're saying. It's not like the story that really applies to Kefka in 6 is like meaningful here because the Triad is separate and because it's a simulation.
Yeah.
Omega was just doing blood sport. That's all he was doing.
Cool. I get that, much. No, I appreciate that insight because that takes me off of that line of thinking, which I appreciate.
The more important thing is to know the actual in-context lore of Omega in Final Fantasy XIV. Couple things. Alpha's granting us access to the individual encounters is one thing.
Alpha's like the weakest level creation, right?
Yeah,
from Omega.
He's the weakest level creation, but he gets what Omega was trying the whole time.
Right.
A soul. Yeah. Now, I have a question. Have you read the patch 6.3 description of the Omega Ultimate?
I don't think so.
I will read it to you momentarily.
Please do.
As I pull up the Gods Revel, Lands Tremble page. Because this was very important for DSR, this description.
And the continued story arc between Omega and Alpha exists far beyond the Omega raid. I mean, we're still getting updates on that now.
Yeah, so, the prologue. This is the description. What if Omega's relentless testing had continued and provided the elusive answer it sought? The minstrel's words invite you to imagine this scenario, to entertain the possibility of that which may have been, to follow the experiment to its ultimate conclusion.
What if Omega got a soul?
Yes, essentially.
What if, dude, because Omega was a super weapon that was incredible power without a soul. So just to remind people, like thinking back to Xenos, when he was doing his experimentation, is it your flesh or is it your soul that gives you power? Well, as Xenos learned, it ain't the flesh, right? So, and to an extent, maybe a little bit it is. The vessel is important, but really it comes from the soul. So to think about Omega as a super weapon already,
and then being given the thing that gives you the grandest power in the universe, that's kind of scary. What do you think? What do you think it would become? Like, what do you think would happen?
It's logical to think it would become some. It's very similar to what he attempted with MNF. It's what he attempts with MNF is he tries to make himself mortal to understand why
we're driven that way.
Why we're driven. That's the only reason we're even able to defeat him is because he makes himself mortal.
Right.
He throws away the thing that separates him from humanity. And in Savage, which we'll definitely see the Savage form, the music is already in the 6.3 trailer. He throws that away in favor of godhood.
Yeah, that's what I thought. At that point, he becomes like an amalgamation of divinity at that point.
Yes. He tries to take on the thing that mortals worship. Right. As opposed to a mortal himself.
Because he goes, if it's not from them, I'm just going to try to become what I think their power is coming from. I'll just become a god.
Yeah.
And that, I think, goes back to like what I said earlier about how Athena learned to make gods the wrong way, honestly. She built this thing of science and etherochemistry and soul magic and weird shit that probably is just, I mean, it's unnatural and it leads to horrors. I mean, we saw what Hephaestus was, like, just, Jesus Christ, what the fuck? So, you know, it goes back to like, there's a right way to do this. And Vana and her followers apparently fucking figured it out. So...
And Omega is about to potentially figure it out just for the ultimate.
And I love that because if people don't know, ultimates aren't canon, right? It's the what if, it's the what could happen. And sometimes what I like to say is that even if the events that happen are not canon, it does not mean that you can't glean something from it. It doesn't mean you can't learn something about it. Because what it's trying to tell you is if theoretically this timeline were to occur, this is what could happen. That doesn't mean that there's no potential, nothing to be gleaned from it. It can still give you insight on other perspectives. What could have happened, but it's not to say that these things are impossible, just that they didn't occur. So I just want to remind people of that because sometimes, people get confused.
We know this one won't be as story focused as DSR, where DSR explores an entire alternate timeline.
Right. Okay.
But
how much details? I admittedly I don't follow Top as closely as someone like you might because you're doing week one. So I'm not as up on the sources. What like? Do you mind like giving a synopsis of like what to expect from that?
Well, we're starting with Beetleborg form. We already know what the first mechanic is approximately. You can probably already figure out the first roughly 60 seconds of the fight just based on what Yoshi P showed us, which is great because that's 1/18 of what we'll probably need to know. Really. But there's two different quotes that are important, and which one is true? And I'm sorry, there are two different translations from Yoshi P's words, and which one is true will largely determine the way this goes. Translation number one, and these are of the same thing. They're just like, it's the same exact sentence. It's just how they were translated.
Two interpretations.
Yes.
Okay.
Number one was all of Omega will be there, which could be interpreted as all of the tournament, all of his experiments are going to be present, which would include every boss in some capacity. Whether or not we fight them is a different story. Just being able to solve mechanics from them is probably more than enough.
Sure. Could just be a replication of an individual mechanic each boss, like what you said with Kefka.
Yeah. The other interpretation / translation is everything is Omega, which would imply that Omega is the sole boss of this and that there are no other elements outside of him, which, for the sake of his experimentation, is pretty important. I think Omega is the only boss we kill. I think he's the only boss we target. I don't think we'll ever have to kill a Kefka or kill an X-Death or any other boss.
I like this take.
I think it's literally going to go Beetleborg Omega, Omega MNF, God Omega, or Final Omega, as we call it.
And then
secret
the other
form.
one.
Yeah, and then I'll call him Dynamis Omega or some shit like that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, honestly, maybe something like that. That would be fucking crazy if oh shit. I'm not gonna get into that, but not possible for Omicrons, but to be able to harness the power of Dynamis would be fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess essentially, is that? Yeah, I got to look into the Alpha thing.
Both of these statements apply to Alpha because he is a piece of Omega, so that's another important bit. He's Omega's interpretation of his weakest interpretation of himself.
Right, and not some other individual thing that he met.
Right.
Forgot about
which
that.
Which is supposed to be the irony that he determined his weakest self and is the thing that grew a soul.
So what if Omega's final form is a giant
chocobo? I've already been down this road. Yeah, no, I've been saying that. I've been saying that for months.
Yes, giant cyber chocobo. Hello, world.
Yeah, there's a mecha chocobo in Chocobo GP, but it's piloted by a Moogle, so I don't know that we want to.
Yeah. So he becomes the Red Comet.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of things that are possible. But either way, the concept of Omega earning his own soul or figuring out what it takes to earn a soul implies him almost becoming empathetic in a sense, which then makes that last phase a little sadder.
Yeah, because at that point he might like come to realize some things if that occurs, you know? He might pretty quickly be subject to some kind of like mortal weaknesses, so to speak, that, you know, might kind of be a little sad. Considering, I mean, help me remember, is Omega as an entity like the other Omicron where it is a converted sentient being?
Yes. They're all all that way, yeah.
They're all like that. So whether they're in an armor or in a regular body or whatever, they're all like that. So yeah, I mean, fuck, dude. That's fucked up. Don't make me feel bad for Omega, damn it.
Yeah, that's
come on.
You can look for the parallel there with Sigma in Ultima Thule, who is essentially another it's a weaker Omega unit, yeah. Yep. Chi, you would assume, could achieve the same thing, but I don't remember Chi's lore precisely.
And Chi actually Unit N-6205 and I got quizzed on that by my mods yesterday, is the one that's actually present when you are fighting Chi. And if you like read the dialogue from Chi that it says while you're fighting it, and then you talk to that guy afterwards, it's like I can't remember exactly what he says, but it's kind of fascinating. It kind of like I think it posits like a question to you about like what if I can't remember what it is, but it's basically like searching as well as like just like the other Omicron. So and I found that like super fascinating, considering it's not, you know, it's off doing its own thing on its own directive. So yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
And Sigma only reactivates. And what's interesting about Sigma, and I don't know if it's made entirely clear, but they say Sigma's woken up by you kind of going to Thule in a sense. I don't know if Sigma's actually out there and reactivated, or if because we're in Thule, they've like willed it to exist,
manifested.
Yeah, I don't remember if that's ever precisely explained.
That's probably part of the Dreamscape dungeon. If I had to, maybe not. I don't know. I got to do a refresher, man. This is what I was saying earlier. There's so much stuff, man. It just gets lost in the fucking void. So, yeah, I got to brush up on that before Tuesday.
Not a bad idea.
Yeah. I don't mean to cut anything short if you wanted to keep going, but I do have some.
No, I know. I was gonna get us there next. Don't worry.
Okay.
I knew cool. You said you wanted to wrap up around the actual end time, but then we talked and it just kept going.
And that was great. Yeah. And imagine what the fuck happened. It's in like 2 hours. I don't know how that occurred.
I know. I was here for it.
True.
All right.
It's been very enjoyable. I mean, yeah.
I'm glad we were able to have you on and you were able to just expunge all of this pent up story tension.
I know sometimes it's hard to follow. Sometimes it's all over the place, but it's all there. It's all the clues, they're all there, and I'm just stoked that hopefully Efrosini ends up turning into Mist of the Realm turns into something that is meaningful to us as a character and as a person, and the same thing happens with Pandemonium, and hopefully the same thing with 6-3. I mean, I've just never had a game that has kind of touched my life and with concepts and just different ways of thinking and different ways of tackling struggles than this game. So that's what I see continuing in these raid storylines, and I can't wait to see and talk about it more, because the next raid is going to be fucking awesome.
Oh yeah. Looking forward to Pandemonium to wrap that up, and Myths as well. All right, let's get to this so you can get out of here. Thank you everyone for tuning into this week's episode of State of the Realm. There is no episode next week because I sincerely doubt we'll be ready for one after Tuesday. My life is nothing but a giant Beetleborg robot and his interpretation of mortality. So, and that's what I think it'll be. Thanks to Pyro for coming out to this episode, for taking the time.
Thank you so much.
And why don't you tell everyone where they can find you at, what you're working on at the moment, and what you got planned for the coming future.
Alexa, shut the fuck up. No, I do not want to buy it. No. I'm so sorry. Okay, good. Yes, okay. Hey, sorry about that. I'm Pyromancer. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. As you guys could probably tell, I'm super into the lore of this game. I have a YouTube channel that a lot of people forget exists. It's youtube.com/Pyromancer. I will do pre-recorded videos at some point, I promise. At some point. But I put, clips and highlights of the stream and stuff, and sometimes other thoughts on there. Obviously, I stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/Pyromancer. I stream 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday. I'd love to have you guys come and check it out. If you know me as Ragemancer, it's not true. Except this morning when I didn't get my house, I raged about that. But I didn't rage at chat, I raged at the house. And
that's relatable, though.
Fucking lottery system. What the fuck? Anyway, thank you again for having me, and thanks everyone in the chat for coming and watching. It means a lot.
I appreciate you taking the time.
No problem. Do I leave now?
No, we gotta. We have to say goodbye too.
Okay, I was like, wait. Okay.
So Sly, on that note.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you again, Pyro, for coming. I'm Sly. You can find me at twitch.tv/Sly, aka Gray Fox. You can find me on Twitter at SlyTheFox. I do things. I play games. That's pretty much it. I'm keeping it short because I know Pyro has shit to do. So
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
it's not that much of a rush.
Come by. Feel free to watch me. Yeah.
Okay.
It's good vibes.
Thanks. Good vibes. Really good vibes. Really good vibes. A drink.
Yeah, I was gonna say
one. More than one.
And happy.
There you go. I let him. See, Pyro even jumped the gun. He's like, "Hurry up, Sly! Get him out of here!"
No. I was actually gonna make a joke. I was gonna say, "No one cares about Happy. Y'all know who he is anyway."
That's what that's my line, though. I say that's. Yeah. And I'm Mr. Happy, of course. You can find me. Well, if you're on here on Twitch, you're watching it on the current channel. So, woo, you found me. Over on YouTube, the next 12 months is going to be full of a lot of nostalgia baiting with a lot of retrospectives on various things since Final Fantasy XIV. A Realm Reborn is turning 10 this year in August. So, yeah, today we just looked back at the content that was added in patch 2.1. So that was, oh boy, back when Warrior wasn't a job as far as we're concerned. Those were good times. Yeah,
dark times.
Those are dark times. Yeah, so much so that Marauder in the patch notes wasn't even called Marauder. It was called Brutal Swing, and they never corrected the typo for it. So that's how bad it was.
Is that the meme? Oh, I get it.
They were really bad before 2.1. They were not a class and or a job before 2.1 as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, we're going to be doing that. Tuesday onward is going to be all top highlights until that's done, because I won't be doing anything else. So be sure to tune in 16 hours a day until it's dead.
After top, we have shows planned. I'll kind of get into it after in post show, but yeah, we have shows planned. So please look forward to it. Hi,
but no show next week.
I'm gonna try to do top week 1. Not that seriously. So
probably for the better.
If they ever hit some really awful prog point and you want to come watch me suffer, you're welcome to check that out. It's the first time I'm ever doing an ultimate on release, so I don't know. I'm probably gonna get fucking wrecked.
Yeah,
it's gonna be bad.
Yeah, and then Stranger of Paradise comes out 3 days later, and they have their Omega in that game now too. So I get to get fucked in the ass twice in 1 week.
That sounds like a good time.
Normally, you pay extra for that. Anyway, with that, I guess the cost of the DLC, regardless. So with that, we're going to sign off. Thank you to our sponsors. One last thing. Steel Series, Advanced GG, HelloFresh, and of course, Patreon, who we don't do anything for, but they love us and we love them too. And with that, I'm going to go to the outro screen, give Pyro 30 seconds, and then he can leave. All right. So, as he has requested. So thank everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. And until then.
Thanks again.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you soon.